BolderBOULDER starting gun is about to go off for the 40th year in a row.
50,000 people, yeah! All kinds of music, spectators, everyone has fun.
You got this! Of the costume!
It's the biggest party in Boulder.
About 1.3 million crossed the finish line in those first 39 races. Every finish, a new memory.
I'm going to be doing the BolderBOULDER for the first time.
I stopped to get a hug from my mom in the middle of it.
From elite runners to Hollywood stars, the BolderBOULDER has seen it all.
The whole picture is made up of a million little stories.
This Memorial Day, there is no better place to be than Boulder, Colorado.
There's me and there's the BolderBOULDER, and we're one and the same.
That's because this year, the BolderBOULDER is turning 40 years bold. Monday morning, more than 50,000 people will run and walk the BolderBOULDER course. Just as many will line the streets cheering on the runners in the 40th running of one of the biggest 10K races in the country. Welcome to Folsom Field. I'm Molly Hendrickson.
And I'm Katie LaSalle. Thank you for being with us. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to take a look at how this incredible race became so iconic. And to do that, we'll start back in the 1970s.
We were community oriented, a community bank, and saying, looking for something. Didn't know what it was necessarily.
Race founder Steve Bosley was the president of the Bank of Boulder back in 1979 when he asked Olympian Frank Shorter to help him organize a track meet for kids. Frank thought they needed to do something bigger.
He said, but why don't you just put on a road race? And my famous is, what's a road race?
Steve quickly learned what a road race was, but plans for the first BolderBOULDER were nearly derailed when no one thought to get a permit for the event. And Steve found himself talking to Andy Holler at City Hall less than a week before the race.
It was a Thursday or maybe a Wednesday. And Steve said, we're going to have a race. Nobody will give me a permit. We forget to get it. And I said, well, I'll see if we can see what we can do. We wound up getting the permit. I don't remember what I had to do, but we got going.
We kind of knew what we were doing just because we all felt we were pretty organized, and we had Frank giving us hints from time to time.
Celeste McDowell worked at the bank that first year.
If you worked at the bank, you worked the race. And I couldn't get enough of it.
Now she does HR for the BolderBOULDER and is celebrating her 40th year working on the race.
As the race continued to grow, I just always kept leaning toward doing more and more race stuff and less banking, because the racing was so exciting, and banking is okay, but it's not exciting like racing.
More than 50,000 people will cross the finish line this year, but back in '79, the goal was a lot smaller.
My goal was to have 4,000 runners, and I was upset we only had 2,800.
We didn't think we could fail. We just said, let's try it. And if it didn't work that year, we'd improve on it the following year.
In the early stage, we made big innovations, finishing in a stadium, separate men's and women's races, the wave start. Those were huge.
As impressive as the race has become, both Steve and Celeste believe the Memorial Day tribute at the end of the BolderBOULDER has defined the race since 1979.
I still get teary-eyed 40 years later. It just gives me goosebumps. It's an extraordinary feeling.
Thousands of people filling the stands in what has become the largest Memorial Day celebration in the country.
A million warriors have given their life in the service to this country. And to have the opportunity to do that the right way and have that many people involved is pretty spectacular.
Over the years, the BolderBOULDER has been known for more than just the tribute and the race. It's also been known for its poster series. Annie Gifford is the Boulder artist who designed this year's poster, which features 1972 Olympic gold medalist Frank Shorter, the same guy who suggested the Bank of Boulder create a road race.
So the BolderBOULDER gave me some photos of him going through the finish line, and there he is.
And this is not the first time Annie Gifford has designed the poster for the BolderBOULDER. She did the 10th, the 20th, and the 30th posters. And she's not done yet. She already has big plans for the 50th.
The BolderBOULDER attracts some of the most elite athletes from all around the world. The course's high altitude gives them a challenge they won't find anywhere else. But one of the biggest parts of this race is the Citizens Course. And one of the most famous citizens to win the race, Boulder's own Melody Fairchild, who won the race 3 times as a teenager.
I felt pretty good. I was hoping for a better time, I think, unless my watch is wrong.
Determined and focused. 2 words that easily describe the teenage Melody Fairchild who won the Boulder Boulder 3 times.
I felt pretty good. I'm not quite sure if I'm in as good a 10K shape, as much a good a 10K shape as I can be in for having run a full track season.
Who is that, a cow?
More than 25 years later, Melody the mom is just as focused and
Did you not?
maybe a bit more relaxed.
It is now my passion to give back to the running community and especially the youth what it's given to me.
She's done that by creating the Boulder Mountain Warriors Youth Running Club, the Boulder Women Run running group, and a summer running camp for young women.
I created the camp to give girls a place to come to learn how to be ready for a lifetime of healthy running and to help them navigate some of the challenges that young women face in running and in the sporting world. Healthy body image, healthy sense of themselves and self-confidence, focused on building great kids, great characters first and great athletes second.
Now 44 years old, Melody has taken some breaks from running, but has never given it up. In fact, she set her sights on the Leadville 100 a few years down the road.
I do want to do the Leadville someday. I'm thinking when I'm 50. Yeah.
That sounds like a good age.
Yeah, good time to try to run 100 miles.
As far as the Boulder Boulder, between motherhood and other commitments, it's been a couple of years since she's run it. But nothing could stop her from being a part of the 40th running of the race.
What is it that makes the race so special?
This race is the most well-run, most enthusiastic crowd. It's the most beautiful backdrop for a 10K in the world. It's my favorite day of the year in Boulder. It's better than Christmas.
It's your Christmas.
It's my Christmas, yeah.
And as you heard her say, Melody ran her first Boulder Boulder when she was just 9 years old, and she's run a lot of them, but not every single one.
But believe it or not, there are a few dozen people who will be running their 40th Boulder Boulder this year. Yeah, that's right. They have run the race every year since 1979.
Ooh, and Jason Grenauer introduces us to one of Boulder Boulder's boldest.
It's a fantastic experience. And it's an achievement.
One that Darius Bear has experience with.
There's me and there's the Boulder Boulder, and we're one and the same.
He's part of an exclusive club.
I've run every single Boulder Boulder.
Him and only 60 other people have run the race all 39 times.
Right here I have all of my Boulder's Boldest t-shirts, and I have it from 1992 all the way to 2017.
Even when his family moved to Texas in the 90s, even when he had a knee replacement, a hip replacement, his gallbladder removed, or cataract surgery.
It wasn't, well, maybe I will do it. It was absolutely I will do that.
But his favorite memory is this one.
Yeah, this actually brings tears to my eyes almost.
1984, running with his 5-year-old son.
And he's run every year since.
Including this year. The pair will run side by side with plans to do it for years to come.
I'm actually, at this point, believe it or not, looking forward to 50.
It's one of the most magnificent sights during the Memorial Day tribute, the American flag flying into Folsom Field.
We wanted to get the full experience of what the professionals deal with when they're jumping out of the airplane for the Boulder Boulder. So today, we are going to do the same.
And while some people run the race for the thrill, others run it to reclaim their lives.
I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for me and for my daughters.
An amazing training story when Boulder Boulder 40 Years Bold continues.
I love just the vibration, the energy, the skydivers, the music, the live music, the people, the slip and slides, the guy giving out bacon and tater tots, and just, I love, seeing my old friends. I love running with my family. I love making new friends. I love the Memorial Day celebration. I love the jets flying over, everything about the Boulder Boulder.
That's world-class runner Ryan Van Duzer. He's run races all over the world, but says there's something special about the race his hometown of Boulder puts together every year.
Part of what makes it all so special is what you heard Ryan there talking about at the end, the Memorial Day tribute, and it's hosted by Denver 7's very own Mike Nelson.
And many of the people are in the stands not just to cheer on the runners at the end, but also to pay tribute to the men and women who have given their lives fighting for the freedoms this country has been founded on. And one of the highlights of that ceremony is when the skydivers bring in the U.S. flag. And Katie, you actually had the chance to jump with them.
Yeah, it was wild. I sure did, and I've got to tell you, it was amazing. Yeah, that's me, Katie LaSalle, jumping out of a perfectly good plane at 12,000 feet, plummeting to the ground at 120 miles per hour. Well, I've done this twice now, but for the team of skydivers jumping into Folsom Field on Memorial Day, this is something they have done hundreds, if not thousands of times.
You can hear the crowd screaming when you're coming into the stadium. At about 1,000 feet above the ground, you can actually hear and feel the energy.
Gary is the head of the skydiving demo team for Mile High Skydiving. He's been doing this for 10 years, but the team itself started jumping into the Boulder Boulder back in 1992.
It's a very technical jump. It's a timing-oriented jump.
And jumping into Folsom Field is not easy. While you may see a football field, they see something much smaller.
The thing about the stadium is there's, field houses all the way around on three sides. So we have one side to come in. We have field gold wires on one end. We have a big scoreboard. And we don't get the full football field to jump into. It's about the size of 2 volleyball fields with people all the way around it.
A risky jump with 7 jumpers carrying flags representing 5 branches of the military, the POW flag, and of course, Old Glory.
I bring in the American flag, and I know what that means to me and the respect that I will give that flag and the people that have served their country to allow us this wonderful opportunity. And I never take that for granted.
So, for the sake of the story, we wanted to get the full experience of what the professionals deal with when they're jumping out of the airplane for the Boulder Boulder. So, we are going to do the same. Wish us luck. Photographer Dominic Lee and I both gear up, then it's time to get on board.
How are you feeling?
Nervous, but excited.
That's to be expected.
Yes. And on board our plane, a few more members of the demo team. Sometimes they jump 10 to 12 times a day. Can you believe that? And did I mention this is the only second time I've done this in my life?
I may be more nervous this time. I feel like my heart's gonna come out of my throat. My stomach's gonna jump out of my butt.
You don't feel that way though, right? It's probably me.
And then the moment of truth.
Those first few seconds of exhilaration, that's where a lot of people are just have that wide open mouth and like, oh my gosh. And usually what we see after that, after 1 or 2 seconds, the grin comes on your face.
A grin I was wearing on my face long after my feet were back safely on the ground.
That was awesome! Oh my gosh! Woo!
That's how you land a parachute.
Nice job, Cody, thank you. That was fantastic. That was fun. I mean, I'm trying to do that again.
Okay, I have to say, you're braver than I am. What was that like?
You know, it's really scary when you're looking out over the plane, but these guys are such pros. I felt safe the whole time. That feeling, though, the initial drop was a little terrifying, to be honest with you. But once you're in the air and you get the view of where we were right in Longmont and around the Boulder area, it's just stunning. The military is represented in many ways at the race, but also abroad. Satellite races are held at U.S. military bases and installations around the world. The Boulder Boulder shipping out t-shirts for those willing to run 10Ks in places other than Boulder.
Every year, the Boulder Boulder honors a certain group of veterans. They may be from a war or a unit.
And this year, they're honoring members of the 10th Mountain Division, a unique Army division that got its start actually here in Colorado back in World War II.
We had the D series was a 6-week period of being out with no fires, sleeping in the snow, moving all day from sunrise to sunset around the hills up at Leadville and Camp Hale.
We were all given, along with our winter clothing, which was at that time was pretty good. It was fur-lined jackets and high boots, hiking boots, and that's the first time I'd handled a heavy weapon.
Hugh Evans and Dick Over were just teenagers when they trained at Camp Hale 75 years ago.
We were an experimental division. The Army had never had mountain troops before.
The troops lived outdoors in minus 40-degree weather for weeks on end, hiking up and down the mountains. And those who didn't know how already quickly learned to ski, although they didn't have the benefit of things like ski bindings.
We cut out big heavy rubber bands from automobile inner tubes, and those would be threaded into the toe strap, and that's what we learned on.
When we stopped at night, we first tried the tents, but they didn't breathe, and your breath would leave little ice crystals on the tent, and if you bumped it, they were down your neck.
28,000 soldiers trained at Camp Hale during World War II. More than 1,000 never returned home.
My platoon sergeant died in my arms.
And it's those and others we honor on this Memorial Day.
Well, Memorial Day means what it was set up for. To remember and thank those men that served this country, and particularly those that didn't make it, that gave their last for the United States and freedom.
That's one of the things that Minnie Dole stressed was patriotism. What this country means to us, because some of us have gone and put our life on the line, and that's basically what it is.
Memorial Day means let's protect and keep our freedom.
Coming into the stadium, I was just trying to get, I wouldn't look back at who was behind me, but I could hear that the crowd yelling that I was the local girl for Team USA, so I wanted to make everybody happy or excited that day.
To win the Boulder Boulder Elite Race back in 2006, Sarah Slattery had to do a lot of training.
It's not just the elite runners who train for an event like this. It's the everyday runners and walkers who spend weeks, even months, leading up to the race to try to get in shape.
Yeah, a lot of hard work goes into training for this, and there are running groups all across the state that put together programs for both experienced and new runners. And as our Jason Grenauer shows us, many of them are life-changing.
Really clears my mind when I get out running and, looking at the mountains and the countryside and everything here.
And that's a change of pace for Paul Squillace.
Yeah, it used to be I couldn't walk across the street without getting out of breath, and now I'm running 6.2 miles at 10K.
Training for the Boulder Boulder. He may be running solo, but he's driven by his team.
So I'm helping people discover the strength they have inside them to either run or walk jog the Boulder Boulder.
It's a program the Boulder Valley School District runs for its employees.
We have 110 people, employees, that are participating in the program.
From bus drivers and lunch ladies all the way up to principals and administrators.
A majority of people had lost weight, improved their sleep, their mood improved.
Paul works in purchasing. Peppa Rascone is an elementary school teacher.
I'm going to be doing the Boulder Boulder for the first time.
She ran a half marathon a decade ago, but then things changed.
Then I was diagnosed with breast cancer 9 years ago.
She beat it, had 2 kids, and started training for last year's Boulder Boulder, but the cancer came back. A year later, she's back, training once again.
It definitely changes not just my physical being, but my emotional.
And she's out on the trail and clocking out miles because she wants to be healthy and survive for her family.
I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for me and for my daughters.
And at this year's race, she won't be waiting until the finish line to celebrate.
I will be running to celebrate my cancer-free status.
A reason to smile, all 10K.
Jason tells us the shoes Peppa was wearing when he shot that story are not the shoes she'll be wearing during the race. She told him she didn't have a good pair of shoes to run in. Well, when the Boulder Boulder caught word of that, they contacted one of their sponsors, the Runner's Roost, who now not only worked with Peppa to get her in a good pair of fitting shoes, they're also working with her to minimize her knee problems.
It doesn't matter who you are or how long you've been training, we can guarantee there will be a roar from the crowd as you enter here into Folsom Field. But new this year, there are some changes here at Folsom that even the most experienced Boulder Boulder runners should know about. This year, any bag you take into Folsom Field will need to be clear. The Boulder Boulder is enforcing CU's clear bag policy at Folsom Field. Not only do they need to be clear, they cannot be larger than 12 by 12 by 6 inches or a 1-gallon plastic bag. You can get around that, though, by paying for a mobile locker at the starting line and then pick up your items at the finish. Also, if you don't want to search for your car after the race or find parking before, take the bus. RTD offers $9 round-trip fares, and after the race, they'll pick you up right outside the stadium.
The biggest thing you need to remember on race day is to have fun, although it's hard to run this race and not have a good time.
Yeah, seriously, from the belly dancers, the bands all along the route to the families, they're sometimes sitting in their yard and spray you with a hose. Boulder Boulder, I mean, sometimes the spectators are more entertaining than the runners themselves.
And it's that sense of community that the race organizer says will keep this race going another 40 years.
The way in the early stages, it really wasn't bringing the community together.
For Steve Bosley, the Boulder Boulder was just a race until CU became involved.
Set the stage then for the community to be more and more and more involved.
Since 1979, the race has inspired generations of runners.
I can remember seeing the elite runners who would come here every year to train, and I wanted to be like them.
And it's inspired them to do more than just run.
Boy, I think it was 8 or 9, as the story told me, and they're watching the oath of office, the new enlistees. And he said to his mother, "What are they doing?" And she told him, and he said, "I want to do that someday."
What we do is, in this particular event, is because of the men and women that have served in the military and have afforded us the freedom to be able to do something we love so much.
After 40 years, the Boulder Boulder has helped make the city of Boulder the place to be on Memorial Day.
I haven't run for 2 years, and this year I'm going to register because I have to be out there to celebrate this anniversary.
It's a fantastic experience, and it's an achievement.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us here for a look at 40 years of Colorado running history.
And to all the Boulder Boulder runners out there, good luck.